Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to talk about slides. These can either make or break your presentation, so I hope I'll have some helpful tips for you. Alright guys, so when we're thinking about slides, one of the things that I think is especially important just to kind of talk about initially is that slides are a supplement. They are not the lesson in of themselves. So when you think about these slides, just make sure that your lesson is good before you do the slides and don't center your whole sermon around the slides. So this has happened plenty of times to me, and I'm sure it will happen to you as you go through and preach over time, and it may have already happened to you. But you'll go through and you'll make this whole sermon and everything, and the slides may even be something very, very important in the sermon. And then you'll get up there and the projector doesn't work. Or your computer is not going to work with a projector, which seems to be a problem since I use a Mac, which I'm sure is crazy for some of you. But there's always going to be a problem. And then you never know if the power is going to go out or something like that. And so if you've structured your entire lesson around those slides, then you're going to be in trouble. So just a little bit of a tip right there at the beginning. And so let me give you 3 things this morning that are basically my tips for making effective slides. So first up, use a corresponding image. It is very easy to go through and use the templates in anything like PowerPoint or Keynote, and some of those are fine, but an image is something that is very, very important. You have heard the expression, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And so there's a reason people say that, and there's a reason that sticks with people. And so when you're thinking about pictures, that's very, very important. So one of the things that is helpful, and I learned this from an article about TED Talks, but one of the things that they talked about is that whenever you can use an image instead of words, use it. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First off, it helps you accurately convey the idea to your audience better, and then also it will help you to use less words. So like, for example, if I'm trying to explain where Jerusalem is, that could take a long time to explain. Or I could just pop up a map and say, here's where Jerusalem is. Makes it easier. Alright, so as part of that, you may ask, well, where do I get them? Well, there's a couple of things, and we'll talk about this in just a minute. You could get a subscription to some certain websites, which we'll talk about in just a minute, or you could go through and use some particular free websites. Now, that's going to be kind of what you want to do, and they have pros and cons to both of those. I've used both of them. So if you're going to get images that you're not paying for, then places like Pixabay or other places that use basically royalty-free images, those are really, really good. But they're going to be limited. They're not going to always have exactly what you're talking about. And even a subscription site isn't always going to have what you're talking about. You may also use free domain images. So I think this is connected like with Wikipedia and others, is that they'll have specific pictures and those types of things. And then another thing that I use is a site called Free Bible Images, and they have some really good ones there, and you just kind of have to decide if you want to use that or not. Another one that's general for just templates and stuff is FPPT, or Free PowerPoint Template.com. I've used a lot of that stuff, and anyway, you can kind of check those out, and that's what I use for my free stuff. But if you're going to use a paid subscription, something like Graceway or Share Faith, I'll just say it is going to be so much easier, but it comes with a price tag. All of those are going to be probably $200 to $300, somewhere in that range, for an entire year. And so if you're going to do that, that's fine. Just make sure you use it, and your images are going to be much easier to do, and they're going to be a higher quality. So if you're going to get an image, just make sure that it's conveying the idea that you're wanting. Now, how much text should I put on an image? Or how much text should I put on my slides? Well, one recommendation I heard was 2 lines or less. So I'll try to give you an example. And so this is one of the sermons that I've done. And in this case, I've used either 1 or 2 lines of text. And then as part of that, you don't want to really just have lots of sentences, and you need to make sure your text is big enough so that people can read it. I heard one good description of this. It was, you want to make sure your text size is half of the age of your oldest person. So if your oldest person in the audience is 90, for example, your text size needs to be a minimum of 45 for them to see. And so again, you want to check this by going back to the back pew or something, get a good grasp of making sure that people can read it. Then part of the text, and you can kind of determine if you want to do this. I don't usually do this, but verse references are very helpful if you put them on there. But just remember that less is more. You want your audience to listen to you, not just read and be wowed by your presentation. That's not the point. That's not the reason that you have those. You're wanting those to be a guide. So that if someone takes a baby out, or if someone had a distraction, they know where you're at, they can follow you, and it's helping to make progress in the lesson. You're not just giving this big blob of information to people. All right, so the next tip, it's more connected to the scriptures thing, is should I use scriptures or not? Generally, I'll just say no. Don't do it. And here's a couple of reasons. First off, it takes an enormous amount of time to go through and to put that in. And you may say, well, Shane, all I've got to do is copy and paste it. Well, every time I've tried to do that, you copy and paste, then you format, then you've got to go through and switch it to the right font, and then you've got to make it the right size. Generally, it's not very good. And here's the thing. Generally, people cannot read your slides and listen to you at the same time. My philosophy is I want people knowing the scriptures in their own Bible, and so I don't want them to just sit there and read off the screen. It's very much a situation where someone could come and just sit there and just look at my slides and be totally checked out of the lesson. Yeah, I'm not down with that. So I want them to be looking at it in their own Bibles, but if you're going to do that, give people time to get to the scriptures. That's just so important. If you're going to use them though, here's some of my suggestions for that. Use small verses or partial verses. It's not unusual for me to go through and have maybe a verse at the beginning of a lesson that I want to highlight, or in one sermon I've actually have the verse up there. It's one thing is necessary. And anyway, all I do is actually highlight sections of the verse for my different points. Or I might have the verse as a concluding part of my slides. So those are things that are helpful. But whenever you do that, though, use a pointer to help people follow. So don't just have them try to read. Have them read it with you as you step and you show the points that you're reading. And read it to them. Now, just kind of be careful about that, though. If your mic system works good, then it's fine for you to look back at the screen and read it. If your mic system does not work good, then just realize you're speaking away from your audience and they're not going to be able to hear very well. So just keep that in mind. All right. Here's my overarching principle, though. It's the KISS theory, right? Keep it simple, stupid. And so it's just super important with all of this is just keep it simple. And so when you're making your slides, that means easy transitions. Don't have this stuff that's coming out of left field at some crazy angle or something. It's just not, it's not conducive. You can have things like dissolve. You can have plenty of things that work fine, but simpler the better. Again, they're not trying to watch your presentation. They're trying to listen to you and to what God's Word has to say. Also, this happens, and I don't really see this very much anymore, but please don't use funky images or clip art. We're in 2018. You don't have to use that kind of stuff, and don't have stuff like dancing on the screen and all kinds of stuff. It's just not good. It's a distraction. It's just not part of furthering what you're trying to do in the lesson. Then enhance your messages and don't hurt it. So that's the whole point of the images. is to make it better. Just like Jesus used illustrations, like in the Sermon on the Mount. Here's a city set on a hill. Here's light. Those are situations where he's pointing to things that are around him, or at least things they're familiar with, to actually help his message. So that's what you need to be doing as well. And so, as part of this, generally, less slides is usually more. And so I know sometimes people will put the 2 lines and they'll have like 10 slides or 6 slides or something like that. I'll tell you, generally with me, I will have 3 to 4 slides. It's intro, my main points, and a conclusion slide or some other section of it. And so the reason I say less is more is because generally, and this has happened to me, that means less clicking, and also it means less time losing your place. I can't tell you how many times I've sat there and either myself or somebody else and been clicking and forget to click, and now I'm like 3 points behind and my audience is saying like, where's he at? And then I'm like, oh man, I better catch up all these slides. And so it's just a mess. You're actually hurting your message instead of that. And just remember, your whole point of those is that you're trying to make this stuff easier to follow. When you just have your main points on there, that means people are listening to you and you're helping them to move the story forward. You're helping them to move the points forward. All right, so hopefully that was helpful. And if you have any more suggestions or any questions, feel free to shoot me a line, put a comment down below. And if you have any other things, I appreciate all the support, appreciate all the ideas. Just remember, in conclusion though, images can greatly help. You can look at all kinds of research. They really, really help the memory, so please use them. But here's, again, one of those things I'm saying. Many great lessons, though, are done without them. And there's plenty of people that have been preaching a long time, and have done plenty of great lessons without them. So, if you're going to use them, again, it's not necessary. But I believe it's a good thing. But write a great lesson and then make it better with good slides. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have anything else that you have a question about or something like that, just drop a line down there. And so if you have not subscribed, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like this video, and if you want to, share it. I appreciate the support. I have lots of positive comments and everything. So I guess I'll catch up with y'all later. Have a good one.